Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my YouTube channel. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today for you I have a mighty game review of Red Dead Redemption 2. That's right, folks. Going to be doing a bit of a review on a Western game here, so we're going to be talking a bit about cowboys and Indians. Going to dive into it. Let's give some information off the bat about the game itself. The developers, Rockstar Studios, and the publishers, Rockstar Games. So this is an in-house Rockstar project. It is made with their Rage engine. And this is actually the third game in the series. The first game being Red Dead Revolver, which came out many moons ago. I don't even quite remember, like 2003, 2004, I think it came out. And then the second game was Red Dead Redemption, which came out in 2010. And then we have Red Dead Redemption 2 here, which released in October 2018 for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And then it would release in November of 2019 for Windows PC. It is an action-adventure game with a lot of role-playing elements. It has a vast open world, lots of places to explore, and that being said, the world feels lived in. There's finite detail taken into how the world was made, how the terrain was done, the woodlands, the wildlife, how people lived. You know, you had your more slummy areas while you had your more high-class areas. And that's the other thing about this game is you had a lot of different areas that you could go through in the game. You had like the vast city of Saint-Denis, and then you also had your little raggedy towns like Valentine, which is actually where you start, the first city you start. And that does give a variety in the world. There's a lot of mountainous terrain, there's wilderness, there's the more arid plains that you would expect from a Western, and then there's even your massive cityscape. I really like the guns, the great selection of guns. You had like the Henry repeater there. You kind of expect that with a Western. You had, they call it the Cattleman revolver, but it was a single action army. You kind of expect that for a Western. You know, that's kind of one of those Western guns. You had a lot of different types of guns that you would see in Westerns, as well as because of the time period. This game also leans more towards the turn of the century, so you even have guns like the Mauser broom handle in here, as well as like the Browning Auto 5 shotgun. Of course, the good old double barrels there, as well as there's a lever action shotgun, a couple different lever action rifles, one of them being a Winchester, and I've already said about the Henry rifle. The Western style music is actually rather good for this game. It kind of sets the mood, if you will, at what you'd expect for a Western. And the game itself does have bullet time mechanics. They're quite fun, and it's actually nice and refreshing to see those, because when Max Payne came out, a lot of games around that time was coming out with the bullet time mechanics because of how hot Max Payne was. And then the bullet time mechanics kind of went to the wayside after so long. And it's nice to see how they came back, how they were implemented here. They worked great. You didn't necessarily rely on them like a crutch, anything like that. That's kind of one thing I hate about some games, especially AAA games, is when they have a cool mechanic or they bring back a cool mechanic, whatever, they kind of make it very heavily, the way the game is set up, they kind of make you heavily depend on it. And here, while the bullet time stuff was pretty cool, and there was some points where you needed to depend on it, you didn't constantly need it to get through situations. And I actually used it very rarely myself. The sounds are great. I like how the horse riding sounds, the way the hooves hit the ground, the nice, crisp, metallic sounds that you get from the revolvers and the shotguns from doing your reloads, the way the guns themselves sound, just the way everything sounds. You have the way the wind sounds, just the way nature itself sounds. I mean, they really did a great job when it comes to the soundscape of this game. There was not a single sound in the game that I actually felt disappointed in. The horse riding itself is actually rather good. I felt it was rather good. I still prefer actually Kingdom Come Deliverance's horse riding there are some people out there that kind of shit on Kingdom Come Deliverance, the horse riding in Kingdom Come Deliverance, but this is definitely on par, if not at times actually even better than Kingdom Come Deliverance when it comes to horse riding. There's very few games out there that I've played that I've actually liked the horse riding. Gun is one of them. This is actually one of them. And then, of course, Kingdom Come Deliverance. And Skyrim, well, we won't talk about that horse riding. Lots of things to do. You know, punch a feminist in the face. Rob stagecoaches. Help people. Save women. You know, feed racist alligators. Yeah, there's all kinds of different cool stuff that you can do in this game as just secondary stuff, as well as the primary story stuff to do. You got like your story-based missions, you got your secondary missions, you got tasks you can do, and then let alone you also have random events where you can help people or hurt people, depending upon what kind of play style you're going for. For me, I went for more of the neutral anti-hero where I'm not afraid to rob your stagecoach, but if I see you alongside the road and you got bit by a rattlesnake, I'm going to try to help you out. As well as, you know, I have no problem also turning around and shooting you if you point your gun at me. So there you go. And that's the other nice thing about this is you got freedom of play style. You can change up how you play the game. And that being said, it also... your play style, how you do things, how you set things up, really depends on how the end of the game is going to be. How people are going to remember you, because for the main part of the game, the first 5-6 chapters of the game, you're playing as Arthur. And Arthur, spoiler alert for those who didn't know, which I don't know how at this point you couldn't know, Arthur gets tuberculosis and actually dies from it, which is the main character you see here playing as. And the thing is basically when the main story ends, you go into the epilogue and you're playing a different character. But basically what you do, how you do things, the people you help, that all determines essentially how your death is going to be, which I found that actually very cool part of the story itself. It does have light survival and health mechanics. I mean, how much you eat actually judges your body weight, which judges a few different variables. I tried to maintain average because actually your body weight actually affects your movement speed as well as your stamina. So if you're heavyweight, or actually I believe it might be overweight, I'm not quite sure. I think it might be heavyweight. It judges you're going to burn through your stamina faster. You don't move quite as fast. Where if you're lightweight, you can move faster. Your stamina will last longer, but you also take more damage. So if you're average, you're right in the middle of the road, and I felt that was like the perfect place to be. Although even if you do go lightweight, it works out pretty good. But keep in mind, you want to keep your head down quite a bit more when you're a lightweight. The other part of the health system is your eating, drinking, whatever dictates your cores. You have a health core, you have a stamina core, and you have a focus core, your Deadeye core, which that's your bullet time mechanic stuff. That's what they call the bullet time mechanic is Deadeye. And basically what that all is based on is how much you eat, drink, etc. Sleep is a part of it. So it does have sort of pseudo survival mechanics, although they're not full bore survival mechanics. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, it does matter. Eating, drinking, basic survival, like very basic baseline survival stuff does matter. Sleeping matters, etc. The lighting, in my opinion, is great. There was actually times where, I would just stop and just stand there and just watch the sunrise over the horizon. The lighting was great. Even sometimes just stop and just look at the sun going down behind the horizon. So lighting-wise, the shadow-wise, all that stuff is really, really well done. I hate to talk up Rockstar like I am, but they really did a really great job with this game. Now, there was moments where the shadowing was so dark it was hard to see, but yeah, I mean, the really dark areas were supposed to be really dark, and they were, and the lighter areas were supposed to be really well lit, and they were. And even the torchlight stuff, because of course at this time you'd rely on lanterns. So far, my total opinion is the story is great. This is definitely one of the best single-player stories I've experienced in a while, outside of Kingdom Come Deliverance. And honestly, okay, so with GTA 5, because I also have GTA 5, understand I have over 1,000 hours in GTA 5, so there's going to be a few pitches there of how GTA 5 is versus Red Dead Redemption, Red Dead Redemption 2. GTA 5 did not really grab me story-wise. This game did. It took a little bit because you had to get through the opening baby steps section of the game where the game is teaching you the mechanics and stuff like that. But once I really got out there and really started to explore the open world, like especially when it started hitting like Chapter 2, like midway through Chapter 2, and you really could get out there and start exploring the world, doing different things, and you got a good comprehension of the mechanics. It was great, and the story overall was great, and I liked how everything had some type of impact. Even some of the stuff that you think wouldn't matter still had impact at the end of the day, as I found out in the epilogue what everyone's opinions were of Arthur. Was he a good man? Was he a bad man? Was he just, a good man in a bad world, etc., etc. And sometimes you would help someone out, not expect a reward at the end of the day, and then you'd ride into town, that guy would see you, stop you, and tell you, hey, why don't you go down to the gun store and go buy a gun? Thanks for saving my life. So everything had an impact, everything you did. The people, you always felt like you were impacting someone's life by helping them or hurting them, whatever. And even at moments, by killing someone would come back and try and get revenge on me for it. So that was really well done itself. Another thing that I thought was great was the historical references, especially at the time. There was some weird, it would almost seem like science fiction. It would have been science fiction then, but now it's a very real thing to us when it comes to technology, such as there was a section there with a remote controlled boat, and which would turn into a robot thing. It was like a whole Frankenstein story. It was really cool. At that time, though, that would have been science fiction, and that's stuff we can do now anytime we want to, willy-nilly. There's other historical references like that. Even like in the guns itself, there's historical references, like I explained. There's a lot of lever actions and double barrels and single action revolvers. But this was the time period where you started seeing more and more double action revolvers. You started seeing more and more pump action shotguns and semi-automatic pistols and even 30 caliber machine guns and stuff like that. So it wasn't even, they call it the Gatling, but it was just like a Browning 30 cal machine gun. I actually never seen an actual legit Gatling in this game. It was like a belt-fed, water-cooled, machine gun, like a Maxim or something like that, which is, once again, it's all turn of the century, how things were being done. And even the nice thing is they blended that into the story. And even Arthur itself, the main character herself, was like, things are changing. The time of the cowboy's over. The Western is over. The West isn't wild anymore. And that was literally really the case at the turn of the century. I mean, it would still take a few years after, the events of Red Dead Redemption 2. But yeah, that's kind of how it would change. And the other thing that was a nice historic reference was the Ku Klux Klan. And honestly, I don't want to talk about what I did to them. although it did involve a Winchester lever action. Next thing is, and this is probably one of the things I appreciate the most, for how big this game is, for how graphically driven this game is, for all the different stuff that the game has, the voice lines, etc., etc. Meanwhile, also the voice acting was really good. The game loads really quickly. Like GTA is just like, it's an egg timer. You know, I go cook, I load GTA, I go cook lunch. I load this, I have a quick cigarette. You know, it's that quick to load. Now, things I was not really fond of with Red Dead Redemption 2. I realize this was overwhelmingly positive so far, but there is some negative sides to it. At times, the AI absolutely shits itself. That's pretty typical, and that seems typical with most games anymore, trying to get that finite coding with AI. It's really hard to do. There's a couple games out there that's got some amazing AI. That being said, the Red Dead's AI is not bad, and honestly, it felt better than GTA 5's, but still kind of shits itself from time to time, and it's definitely very noticeable in Saint Denis, because when you're riding a horse down the street, you might just be doing a nice slow trot, and someone will act like you're booking down the street and going to run them the fuck over when you're not even within 10 feet, within 10 feet of them, if not more. I did see some graphic and lighting glitches, nothing huge, nothing game breaking, nothing that actually really bothered me, but there was a building I saw a lighting issue in, and every once in a while I'd see some clipping of things, but realistically nothing major there, and it wasn't a regular occurrence that I could see. Now, that being said, I tried to play Red Dead online. I tried twice to connect. I was going to try a third time, but I didn't. But from what I'm seeing from people, and this is, understand, 3 years after the game's release, 2 years after Red Dead Online itself was put together, it seems like the Red Dead Online is generally bad anyway. A lot of people seem to have negative experiences with it, probably more so than with GTA Online. And I think the biggest thing is with GTA Online, you can kind of go into a private solo instance where you can open up an instance where it's you and your buddies playing. With Red Dead Online, you can't do that. Other than that, I've seen a lot of things where people just complain about that there's really not a whole lot to do in Red Dead Online compared to the main game, which that doesn't really surprise me, but there probably should have been more to do. The next thing I have to point out, and this is kind of a side note, this isn't really on the game itself or the developers, but the modding sucks. I tried for a few hours to actually mod stuff in this, like new clothing, new skins, etc., etc., and I actually had problems with that. So if anyone's got a good link to a tutorial for modding, please post it down below, a link down below, and be like, hey, this is how to mod the game. I tried a couple different tutorials, and I just could not get my mods to work for nothing. That's even with using the mod loader and the whole 9 yards. I just I feel like there might be a step I am missing. Rapid tapping for horse riding and the stagecoach riding can get really annoying, especially if you're going to play for a long period of time. And that's to really get the horses up to full speed and really get them going. It'd be nice if it was more like a toggle system, where maybe you got to tap like 3 or 4 times and then just hold it down, and then they'll just keep going at maximum speed. They'll still go at a good pace just by giving a good old double tap, and they'll run at a decent pace. But to really get them going, you got to rapidly tap nonstop, and that sucks. And personally, I would actually like more clothing options in the single player. I mean, there's no poncho in it. If you guys have ever watched The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Clint Eastwood wears a poncho in that, or that's what they call a poncho. It would be nice to have that. A nice, awesome, legit bounty hunter style duster, like what, oh God, I can't remember the character's name already. I think it's But the one character gets like a really cool bounty hunter duster, and you don't really get one of those. You do get a trench coat, but it's not that cool. It's just, yeah, it's whatever. It'd be nice to have some more clothing options. Either ways, that being said, price tag of Red Dead Redemption 2, this is just the core game, is $60. It's still $60 after a couple years, folks. There is also the Ultimate Edition, which is $100, which brings in some more stuff for the single player, some free stuff such as there's a free gun there, free horse, some more clothing options, etc. And that's $100. And also, there's also some stuff there for multiplayer too, for online. The online stuff, I honestly didn't really matter to me. I was more focused on the single player. But hey, it's nice to have that multiplayer stuff if I want to use it. That being said, I was able to actually pick this up during the Steam Summer Sale for $40. That's the Ultimate Edition. That was 60% off, and Red Dead 2 itself was $30 during the Steam Summer Sale. Honestly, for how much fun I had in this game, it's an over 100-hour game. That's what I put into it, and I didn't do all the fishing and hunting and all that kind of stuff. This is easily you could probably easily put in 200-300 hours in just the single player of this game alone, let alone if you actually enjoy the online experience, if you can get an online experience, which I couldn't. That could really rack up the hours in this game. Honestly, I would say the game actually is worth $60, and that's actually something I haven't said in a while about any game that, especially from a AAA developer, that the price tag of $60 for the game is actually worth it, because you can really put some time in on this game, and it's a lot of fun, and it's really well done. Now, would I spend $100 for the Ultimate Edition? No, but I definitely would spend, $40, $50, $60. Like I said, I spent $40, got the Ultimate Edition. I would say that was actually worth it, because it just made things easier, especially having the thoroughbred horse right out the gate, absolutely free. And actually, if anything happens where the horse dies, I can just go back to another stable and get another one for free. So, no money spent there from the character's pocket. Anyway, folks, that's it. That's my review of Red Dead Redemption 2. My opinion, if you haven't played this, go out and fucking buy this. Especially if you're interested in Western movies or even have played some Western games in the past that you like. I didn't play Red Dead Redemption. I only played Red Dead Redemption 2. And I didn't really like Red Dead Revolver. However, I was a huge fan of Gun. And I like Westerns. And this game really gripped me. Anyway, folks, thank you very much for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed this review and have yourself a wonderful day.